Have you seen Star Wars?
In a newly revealed interview for a book about the Star Wars prequels, George Lucas reveals more details about his version for his Star Wars sequels. Here's what Lucas said in the interview. Darth Maul trained a girl, Darth Talon, who was in the comic books as his apprentice. She was the new Darth Vader, and most of the action was with her, so these were the two main villains of the trilogy. Maul eventually became the Godfather in the crime universe because as the Empire falls, he takes over. The movies are about how Leia, who else is going to be the leader, is trying to build a new republic. They still have the apparatus of the republic, but they have to get it under control from the gangsters. That was the main story. It starts out a few years after Return of the Jedi, and we establish pretty quickly that there's this underworld. There are the offshoot stormtroopers who started their own planets, and that Luke is trying to restart the Jedi. He puts the word out, so out of the 100,000 Jedi, maybe 50 or 100 are left. The Jedi have to grow again from scratch, so Luke has to find 2- and 3-year-olds and train them. It'll be 20 years before you have a new generation of Jedi. By the end of the trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, and we have the renewal of the New Republic, with Leia, Senator Organa, becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything, so she ended up being the Chosen One. Now, there's a lot of details here to unravel, some great and some not so great. First off, I do like the idea of Luke reuniting the Jedi Order and trying to rebuild the Order. This is a lot better of an arc for Luke compared to the one that we got in the Disney Star Wars films. Also, Maul coming back as the main villain would tie in really well with the Clone Wars story that he had. And it's funny how the new canon has Maul as a crime lord, but in this version of the sequels, he would actually tie in really well with the new canon too, with the Clone Wars, with Solo's Star Wars story, the movie that came out a few years ago. It just seems like Maul was destined to become some underworld crime lord. It's also crazy to think about the crime world. The gangs of the Star Wars universe are basically running the New Republic, which I think is always Lucas trying to get a little bit more political with us. But one thing I like about this is that it involves a little bit more of the Star Wars politics that we didn't get in the Disney Star Wars sequels. I'll be honest, I did not like all the political stuff in the prequel trilogy, but this shows a little bit more of the state of the galaxy and how it's rebuilding as opposed to what we got with, like I said, the Disney sequels. So there are some really good things about this, and Maul being involved in this as a crime lord fits really well, not only with the canon before Disney, but also the canon after Disney. Having Maul return in the Clone Wars and kind of being a crime lord in Season 7, being a crime lord in Solo's Star Wars story, it just goes to show that this version of the George Lucas Star Wars sequels really ties in well with any canon that we have, whether it's the Disney canon or the George Lucas canon, from the Clone Wars, from Solo's Star Wars story. All this stuff ties in really well, and if this story actually came to fruition and was actually the Star Wars sequels we got, it would mesh really well with the Star Wars timeline as opposed to what we got with the, new films, if you will. I feel like a lot of fans are going to be upset with the idea of Leia being the chosen one instead of Anakin, which I do find funny because that also goes to show that Lucas always, and I mean always, changes his mind and his plans for the story in Star Wars, and it's clear that in this version of the sequels, Anakin is not really that crucial to the story, but his children are. There's no mention of the Skywalker grandchildren or the Skywalker bloodline, but it does take place a few years after Return of the Jedi, so that would mean we're dealing with younger versions of Luke, Han, and Leia, so maybe we're not getting their grandchildren yet, or at least the grandchildren of Darth Vader, but it would also be kind of odd to see them try to play off a young Luke, Han, and Leia. It would be very interesting if Lucas actually tried to make this, but then again, these seem like the ideas that he had back in 2005. One thing that's important to mention is that these are not the story outlines that Lucas sold to Disney back in 2012, which dealt a lot more with the grandchildren of Darth Vader and Luke in isolation and dying in episode 8 or 9, and the main point of the entire story for the sequel versions that he gave to Disney was the microbiotic universe of the midichlorians. So this seems like Lucas was talking about an earlier draft for his Star Wars sequels from maybe I think about 2005 to 2010 when he was finishing the prequels and before he started rewriting these drafts, and this is when he was still envisioning a potential 7, 8, and 9, but never really getting the gears turning. It seems like when he actually started to get motion for the sequel trilogy, when he started talking to Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher about making 7, 8, 9, the one he sold Disney about the microbiotic universe, Luke in isolation, those are the ones he was actually going to commit to. And to be honest, it'll be interesting to see how Star Wars fans react to this new story that Lucas had for the sequels. I've already seen people say that it's awful, which is expected, and other people say, which is also expected, that it's better than the Disney Star Wars sequels. And I think there's an argument for that. There's always these concepts that we have that, of course, sound better than the movies that we actually got, but when it comes to fruition, when we actually make the films that we're having concepts for, is it going to be better than the ones that we had? Maybe, maybe not. What I will admit is that this version of the sequels is not better, in my opinion, than the ones that he sold to Disney. I like the idea of exploring more about the Force in the microbiotic universe, but I don't like that version of having Luke being in isolation and there not being a new Jedi Order. So maybe the best version of George Lucas' sequels are the ones where he combines both of these stories. Maybe have Darth Maul run the crime world and his apprentice Darth Talon and Luke trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, and Leia rebuilds the New Republic, and then they kind of fight Maul for the crime world and him controlling the Republic, and Luke fighting Darth Maul and Darth Talon to defeat the new Sith, if you will, to defeat the dark side. But in that process, Luke and Maul discover that the midichlorians and their microbiotic universe are another aspect of the Force that they didn't know about. And I'm not sure what kind of story arc the microbiotic universe would entail, but it would expand upon the Force, and I like that, and it seems like Lucas wanted to put that in the outlines he sold to Disney in order to fully explore the Force and bring everything full circle. And one thing we can say about these new story details is that it brings the entire Star Wars story full circle. It uses the villain from The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul, and also uses the original characters and finishes the stories with the Jedi Order and the New Republic. But it is odd that Leia is the chosen one now. He always preached about Anakin being the chosen one, and now he changes his mind and says it's his daughter? I'm not complaining about Leia being the chosen one, I just think it's a little too late in the story to change who's the savior for the Jedi. Best thing about these outlines from Lucas is there isn't a single mention about Palpatine or him returning, and I think that's a great change, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. Do you like this version of the Star Wars sequels by Lucas, with Darth Maul being the main villain, the crime world running the New Republic, Darth Talon being the apprentice, Luke rebuilding the Jedi Order, and Leia being the chosen one? Or do you prefer the 2012 version that he sold to Disney, where it's about a microbiotic universe, Luke is in isolation, and there's a young girl similar to Rey who kind of comes in and redeems him and brings him back and starts the Jedi Order again, and there's a Sith hunter that's, I think, the son of Han Solo and Leia, and that was like a early version of Kylo Ren? I don't know. Tell me thoughts below. Which version of the story do you like more? Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe, because it does help out the channel. I'm Star Wars Only. I will see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.